The air game in Planetside 2 may be the hardest to get into, and it has its own set of odd social codes. So why are there flying samurai? And what is the fighter pilot Bushido? Fasten your seatbelts and prepare for turbulence as I go over the ethos of the Skyknight. Flying a fighter is both unforgiving and arguably unrewarding in Planetside 2. Why is the air game so hard? Firstly, you have the fact that aircraft are more like a VTOL than a traditional jet. Through getting into a hovering state, good pilots are able to swing backwards, keep their nose guns firing at their enemy, and at the same time being extremely hard to hit. This maneuver is an awkward one and is easy to mess up. It also isn't mentioned in any official tutorial, but is integral to flying in its current state. Secondly, the skies are so open that you're always visible to enemy air. A good pilot will be constantly switching between third person to first person, and checking their left and right sides in the cockpit scanning for enemy aircraft. However, a newer player might be engaged and never know where they are being attacked from. Rel, one of the developers and fellow YouTuber, has made it so that newer pilots have engagement radar on the test server. This might alleviate things, but still, a lot of players lack the three-dimensional awareness when you're flying. Aiming the nose gun is also extremely hard in the air. The bullet drop and bullet travel time relative to the enemy's movement is a complex equation you'll be constantly guessing at. And because most pilots run nanite regen device, it is important you are constantly hitting them. But this is no easy task. Even if you are a good pilot, being engaged by an enemy pilot with Tomcat lock-on missiles will usually end in your loss. There is no easy way to dodge them, and trying to often just lets the enemy chase you to get another lock-on. If they are in sight, the only counter is to engage them head on and hope they aren't able to lock again, or a bad shot with their nose gun after you've lost half of your health already. I'd say the 6 rules of ESF flying are dodge, duck, dip, dive and dodge, unless you get locked onto. There is also a danger from the ground. If you're flying, you almost need to visualize the safe zones and danger zones as 3-dimensional boxes that you need to be aware of. If you go too close to a big ground fight, you are likely to take a lot of flak and lock-ons. This will make you vulnerable to enemy air if you don't die already. Most of the time, it is best to be as close to the flight ceiling as possible, except not at the very top because that too will knock you and ruin your day in a dogfight. Why is it arguably not rewarding? Well, playing purely a fighter pilot role will always give you less targets to shoot at than on the ground. You also have lots of time where you're flying around looking for enemy aircraft and making sure not to engage a whole enemy air squadron alone. Playing with air-to-ground capabilities will be infinitely more rewarding XP grind and kill-wise. The experience points for killing an ESF have increased dramatically since launch, but it's still hard to justify going against air only if you're trying to unlock abilities still. This is coupled with the reality of vehicles in the game and the idea of a Bushido, in that pilots will bail like in tanks when they think they are close to death. A lot of pilots will run with light assault and drifter jump jets and redeploy whilst hovering through the air. One reason why pilots find this frustrating is that the light assault is like a pinprick falling through the air, and they are fairly difficult to kill once they have bailed. Redeploying only saves the pilot from that death statistic, whilst denying the victor XP for the kill. A lot of pilots will call out bailing as cheesy for this reason. There's also been a sub-meta since launch of highly skilled pilots in-game engaging 1 versus 1 duels to the death. They will be running engineer to repair the aircraft if it is damaged, and will die if they are the loser, as a sign of respect to their combatant. Accepting death is the Skyknight's Bushido. These Sky Samurai have seemed to shrunk over time, with a lot of them taking their skills onto the test server to duel in peace, or playing as the same faction and dueling until one combatant is on fire at the edge of the warp gate. A lot of the names I recognise as Sky Aces have moved on to other things, and whilst there are quite a few I can name on Miller still, it isn't quite the same. It almost seems the mass majority of pilots now run with light assault and will bail when in danger and redeploy. Since the construction update, the meta has also changed slightly. With so much aircraft in the skies, it is very difficult ever to find yourself in a 1 versus 1 duel. The likelihood is that any fight will be noticed by other aircraft, and they will try to engage and interrupt you. This, however, has always been the reality of flying. It is so often an unfair duel, with flak and lock-ons from the ground interrupting any fight or any other pilots joining into the fray. I often am messaged by pilots saying that they were ganked, but the reality is I often engage them alone and other ESFs just happen by. I haven't flown in an actual air squad for a very long time. What is my Bushido then? Well, I take a little different approach than the falling on your sword to commit seppuku. I do understand the frustration of pilots engaging air-to-air. However, I also am always wanting to continue the fight any way I can. What I will mostly do is bail, however, fire at the pilot to keep their attention and let them know the duel is not over. My flying setup as it is consists of light assault, drifter jump jets to keep me in the air as long as possible, a carbine with advanced laser sight seeing as you can't aim down sight whilst hovering, and C4 as the real katana appendage of the pilot in my opinion. My ultimate goal will be to draw them in close enough to drop a C4 on them, and sometimes that does work. However, most of it is a fun underdog fight with an enemy fighter. You're a small target and difficult to hit, but very vulnerable to fire and very weak. There isn't much hope for you, but there is just a tiny slither of light that you may win. And it is just so rewarding to get that epic kill that was produced on a knife's edge. There have also been times where enemy pilots have bailed and I have been fighting them in the air as my light assault. Other times where I've hovered and the opportunity presented itself when an unrelated enemy fighter will come in and I've been able to see for them. Or I've fallen into another fight and been able to do something before my death. I will also, if possible, do everything I can to kill the enemy pilot who has bailed, even if this means slamming into the ground with my own ESF and suiciding. One thing that seems apparent is that Skyknights bound by strict codes of honour are thinning in the Planetside 2 world. However, as a sandbox, the game is always how you want to play it. If cheese is your favourite meal, so be it. I will be there chasing you to the ends of my own ESF. What does everyone else think about the current state of the air game? Is anyone bound by a certain code of honour whilst they are flying? If you thought this video was as honourable as a samurai, hit the like button. Or if you think it should commit seppuku, give it a dislike. Hit subscribe for more Planetside 2 epicness and other Joshino related content. Until next time everybody, Joshino.